Hi guys, welcome to the Hunter Report. Welcome to my bedroom. It's raining in New York City and we're gonna test silent shooting right here on the beautiful Sony A7S II. I know it's a little dark in here, but we want the conditions dark. I'm shooting on a Panasonic GH3 right now with the f2.8 and I'm really pushing that setup to the max. Obviously the Sony A7S II has much more light. So I've got it set up on a tripod here, and what we're really looking to do is take the exact same shot, once with normal shutter and once with silent shutter. So let me just go ahead and just shoot that right with the normal shutter. All right, so I think you definitely heard that shutter. Let's just shoot it again. Okay, so you heard the shutter. Now let me just show you what we're gonna do before we actually do it. You heard the shutter click. Now we're gonna hit the menu button here, and we're gonna go right here to silent shooting. And so as you can see, silent shooting's off, so let's go ahead and turn it on. Okay, and that's it. That's all we're doing. And what we're really looking for, and let's take that shot. And you saw it was completely silent. Let's move the tripod away. So, and let the camera refocus. So that's what we're doing. We're going to test the difference in image quality between silent shooting versus normal shooting. We're inside of my bedroom here, and I'm just going to try and find a bunch of different locations inside my apartment. It's raining outside New York City, and I just don't want to risk the camera, even though we are shooting here with the Zeiss f4 lens, the weather-sealed Zeiss lens, the new Sony A7S II, new to me at least. And I just don't want to risk it. You know, the camera's insured against water damage, but it's just not a risk that I'm interested in taking, especially because I have a lot of shoots coming up in the upcoming days. So again, the primary focus here is image quality. Is there any difference? The way we're going to do that, we have a tripod. All right, shot is set up. Silent shooting is on. That was shot number one. And let's go turn silent shooting off. Shot number two. All right, exact same ISO settings, exact same tripod position. Try not to move the camera. So this is science. It should be a controlled test. And let's go ahead right now into Lightroom, see if we can see any differences. Hey guys, so these are the two files. You see on the left it says normal, and on the right it says silent. And that's the way we're going to do it from here on out. So let's take a look. Let's zoom in right here. We're in Adobe Lightroom. These are raw files. So these are the exact same shot. Again, normal shutter on the left and silent shutter on the right. It's my Panasonic GH3 over there. There's my Nikon Legacy lens, original owner, 1988. Beautiful f4. And let's actually go zoom 3:1. Slight difference in noise pattern. There's some kind of red noise here. And you see there is a red noise here, although it's a little different. Although, let's take a look. This is a good example. You see whatever's causing this red noise, obviously it's some kind of light reflection or something. And you see it's present in both images, although it's slightly, I guess I could make my screen lighter here, slightly lighter. So that's sort of interesting. Let's see if we could see. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing like a slightly different noise pattern here. If anything, the silent shutter has less of this noise. I mean, look at this pattern right here versus here on the normal. See on the normal shutter down here, you know, it's like slightly redder, whatever's causing that red noise. It's not the focus light, I could tell you that. This was done in manual focus, so the focus was exactly the same for each shot. You know, this is science after all. We're trying to control as many of the variables as possible. I mean, it feels like this menu is like slightly different. But, I mean, I'm starting to draw a conclusion here. Guys, wait for it. I'm coming to a conclusion. I don't know, look at the battery. You know, it feels to me like it's very negligible, you know? Which means pretty much the same, okay? Yeah, there were some slight noise variations like we saw on the lens, You know, right down here, some like a little, actually more noise on the big shutter than on the little shutter. And these noise artifacts, as we call them, they are random between each shot. This is a raw file. This isn't JPEG noise, although Lightroom is probably rendering it. But the noise is the noise, and it's just slightly different for each shot. That's what digital photography is. And it just, again, more noise on the normal shutter versus the silent shutter. So if anything, the silent shutter's less noise. I'm not seeing any real differences in sharpness. Even though the menu here is slightly sharper than the menu there. But overall, okay, over the entire image, I'm really not seeing any huge differences in sharpness. Again, on a tripod, same physical position, same manual focus, exact same everything. Only difference was silent versus normal. Not seeing any huge differences. All right, I've been very long-winded. Let's go ahead back out into the field and take a shot in my studio. Hey guys, so now we're in the studio with much better lighting. You can see we've got the Sony A7S II right here. And let's just take some self-portraits against the unilluminated white background over there. And I'm actually making a point to not keep things too well lit. I want some noise in the shot anyway. So let's just go ahead and take some selfies. And let's go ahead and take a shot. We're in noisy mode. Let's go ahead and take a shot. Perfect, I heard the noise. Let's go now into Lightroom and review that shot. Alright, so if you look at the file names down here, we have normal of the portrait of me. We have silent over here. This was in manual focus, so let's go and do a one-to-one zoom on these Sony RAW files. Now this is compressed RAW. I didn't shoot uncompressed RAW. Again, the light wasn't perfect, but I wanted that just to keep it a little noisy, as opposed to use some flashes to really make that light pop. You know, slight difference in the position that I was standing in. So let's take a look at a object that didn't move, which is this corner here. I'm not seeing any huge differences. Huge differences. All that much. Look at my fold out table here. Let's just do a little 3-to-1 zoom right here. Negligible. Yeah, there's a slight difference right here, but it's negligible. Again, I was, about an inch off, which is why these two images aren't perfectly lined up. But an equal amount of blur on my lips, again, due to poor illumination, which was by design. Yeah, you can see my head was tilted at a slightly different angle because of the light. Maybe it's not a good idea to use moving subjects in these kind of scientific tests. But it just introduces another variable, which is nice. I'm looking at my whatever you call this part of my lips dealy right here. I'm just not seeing a whole huge bunch of differences, even though the light wasn't perfect. Yeah, sure, there's a little light difference there, a little light difference there, obviously, because I'm standing in a slightly different location. The biggest example of that is the way that the video light is illuminating my eye over there. So I'm going to call this image negligible, almost identical, except for the fact that I was standing in a different spot. Let's go ahead to the kitchen and try one more shot. All right, we're in the kitchen just to provide a different looking piece of scenery. And let's go ahead and take the regular shutter shot. And now let's take the silent shot. Hey guys, so let's wrap up the segment here. I think it was negligible. I really think it was negligible. Let me tell you all the situations that I shoot in. Let me go take a look at my portfolio here. You see I shoot comedy shows. There's Hannibal. You see there's Johnny O'Neill and Live Jazz, and these are comedy shows. And there's my uncle, classical conductor, Maestro Maurice Paris. I do studio work too, obviously, and just street candids and whatnot. And in all these situations that I shoot, live music, especially jazz music, classical music, comedy shows. Now, there's an interesting thing. I've been shooting with a non-silent camera. Also, movie sets. There's movie sets I shoot on. I've signed NDAs, so I'm not allowed to go into detail about that, but I've been hired as a professional on-set photographer. And the noise of the camera is an issue. And sometimes there are shots I can't get. Now, I've adapted to that, and most photographers have. For the last 50 years, you had to have a shutter noise, and you just adapted. And I've been able to get great shots, in the middle of comedy shows, in the middle of jazz shows. You see like that one of my uncle's friend, famous jazz legend David Amram. I've been able to get good shots, of shows. Like here's this one at the People's Improv Theater here in New York City. You just learn. But again, we've done the analysis, and the analysis shows that it's negligible. So what that gives me the confidence to do as a professional photographer who's very proud of his work, it gives me the confidence to go ahead and shoot, even for the New York Times, to go shoot a comedy show or jazz show or whatever, classical show or a wedding, and just see. I have enough confidence from this little trial run here that I can go out into the field, into New York City and the surrounding area, and shoot some shows. And I'm 99% confident that, there's going to be a 1% difference from this silent shutter. And, if I discover over the next few weeks that there's, any major deal-breaking situations, I will be the first to let you know. I'm just quite confident that the silent shutter is going to give me these opportunities that I didn't have. So, I am so happy to have this Sony A7S II, with so much more light, in-body image stabilization, silent shutter, microphone jack, S-Log 3, 120 frames per second. The list goes on and on. I'm going to do many more videos on the A7S II. I'm just super jazzed. That's my uncle, Maestro Maurice Paris. This is the Hunter Report. My name is Hunter Paris. I am a YouTuber. I'm also a professional photographer and videographer, as my website, huntershoots.com, says right here. And you can hire me if the price is right and if I'm available. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe. Please give me a thumbs up. And I'll see you soon.